Hi, LinkedIn Live, and welcome to Mice Bites by Authentic Meetings and Incentives. I am really excited about today's guest. Mary Beth is a certified sustainable event professional and award-winning leader at MGME, where she drives eco-friendly practices that don't just look good on paper. They actually save money. With more than 20 years in hospitality, from her leadership days at Starwood Hotels to founding a company featured in outlets like the Wall Street Journal, she's seen this industry from every angle. In the next 15 minutes, she will share how sustainability and smart planning go hand in hand. Then we'll open up for questions, so drop your questions in the chat. Let's go.
Okay. Thank you, Natalie, and thank you for having me here. So let's talk about how you can increase your sustainability, but not break your budget. So the first step is going to be finding the right venue. Choosing a hotel or a venue that embraces sustainability and already has practices in place to help you support your goals is going to be a critical first step. You want to choose a venue that has practices in place for waste, for filtered water, for recycling centers, for energy saving equipment, and has partnerships with sustainable partners in the area for that recycling, for that waste, for that energy saving, so that you can make the most out of your venue. If you wait until the day of or the week before and you say, oh, by the way, what do you do with do you recycle? Do you compost? Do you have a way of donating extra food? It's too late by then, because if they don't already have those practices in place, they're probably not going to be able to get it ready for you. So having that in advance is going to be your number one key. Also, many of the hotels now do provide pre and post event emissions reporting. So if they can provide that information to you, so much the better, especially if it's pre-event reporting, because you can identify where you might have some challenges in your sustainability goals before the event even takes place and figure out a way to combat that so that you can lower that before the event even happens. Then we're going to look at our menu. Working with the venues F&B team is going to be a great way to impact your sustainability and to impact your budget. One of the key options would be to pair with other events. If your hotel or your venue has other events going on, check to see if you can find out, can you both work from the same menu? The reason you would do this, it's going to be a lower cost to you because the hotel can buy or the venue can buy in larger quantities, and it's going to reduce your emissions because there's less travel to and from for those goods or the food that you want on your menu. Using seasonal and local foods is also a great choice. That tends to be less expensive, and it certainly helps with your emissions. And then right-sizing the menu, not having too much left over that you then have food waste and have to figure out what to do with that food waste. Finding ways to add or incorporate vegetarian options and limiting beef is another great way to both impact your sustainability goals and your budget. Beef is generally the most expensive thing that you can find on an item, and it's going to be the biggest emissions option as well, because beef emissions from beef are 20 times more than that of plant-based meals. Find ways to replace those tiny little bottles or packets of condiments and use bigger, more sustainable versions, maybe a giant, a nice pretty bowl of ketchup that people can spoon onto something instead of using little bowls or packets. Getting rid of one-time use things is going to be a big thing that you're going to want to do to not only reduce your costs, but to reduce your emissions. Find ways to use excess food at your breaks. An example of that would be for breakfast, if you have muffins and pastries and maybe fresh fruit on your buffet or your breakfast menu, work with the hotel and see if they can hold that for you in the kitchen, in the refrigerator, wherever it needs to be, and use that for one of your break items. The same thing could be true for desserts or other snack type items that you might have for your lunch, and use it for your PM break. Most hotels will try to work with you if you talk to them in advance. If you wait to the day of and then ask the banquet captain, they may not have any idea what you're talking about, and that may not work. So again, going in advance and working with your partners in advance is going to be the big key to all of this. Allow for to-go boxes for attendees to take some of the items to their rooms or on the go if they're traveling that day. Now, I'm not suggesting you let people take eggs and chicken and fish and things that are highly perishable and need to stay at a controlled temperature. not that. I'm talking about things that have a shelf life that can travel. And if you're staying within the hotel might be able to provide you with some glasses or plates that can be taken to the room and then brought back down the following day or later on. If they're traveling in to go, there are certainly many sustainable options for recyclable or biodegradable to go containers that can go, and get rid of the cutlery that goes with it. Use a more sustainable option if you can. And with that, I also want to talk about roll-ups. Roll-ups are one of my big pet peeves. They're very convenient, and it's easy to grab that from the table when you're going through the buffet line. But what happens when you drop a fork? I kind of always do that. So I'm always thinking about that. Or if you need an extra napkin, you end up having to go get another roll-up, and then all the items that you don't use have to be washed again. So that's more emissions from that. So using an elaborate table display like you can see here is an example of how you could eliminate the roll-up, still have all the cutlery out for everybody to choose from, and it actually makes it a little bit fun. For decor, local and seasonal, just like with food, is the best. And one of the biggest recommendations I can make for both budget and emissions reduction is using living plants as centerpieces instead of cut flowers. Cut flowers are beautiful, no question. But the minute you cut them, they start to die. By using a living plant, it's usually far less expensive. It's better for the environment, and you can then donate them later because it helps the air quality. If you donate them later, they could still be growing in somebody's garden or in their house. This is actually a real example of a plant that was used as a centerpiece, and several years later, it is still growing in one of our staff members' gardens. Because we donated them all and let the attendees, let staff, let even some of the hotel staff take the living plants home, and they're still thriving. They didn't get thrown in a landfill. They didn't get just tossed as trash. They're still thriving years later. As I said, they can be less expensive. And if you don't have a way to donate them, or if your staff or your nobody that's at the event wants to take them, a great place to donate to is nursing homes and hospitals. Anytime you can donate, that's a way to eliminate the landfill. There might even be a tax break on that. You'd have to check with your accounting team though. For disposables, we want to try to eliminate as many disposables as possible. So plastic water bottles are the bane of the world's existence when it comes to disposables. And using a water fill station like you see here, not only is it a way to eliminate that plastic waste, however, it also brings your budget down, because at this point, most places are going to charge between $5 to $9 for a bottle of water. Whereas if you have your attendees bring a sponsored piece of drinkware or ask them to bring their own drinkware, you can save that expense, and you can also save the planet a little bit. And it can also be an opportunity for branding or for sponsoring. Sometimes you'll have events that have a very limited budget, and you're finding ways to incorporate branding within your event. This is a great example of, we can reuse this cling that's on this water station. Every time we use it, we could either use it on a water station, you could use it on a window, you could use it on a whiteboard, and it would be reusable. It's not going in the trash. It's a way to get the branding and the coloring of the company into play, or you can use it as a sponsor opportunity as well. For signage and printing, finding ways to avoid printing things is going to help you on both fronts, because every time you have to have something printed, that's going to cost you money. Even if you print it yourself at your office, it still costs you money for the paper, the tonnage, the toner, the electricity, all of that. Or if you have it printed by a company and then shipped to you, that's even more money. So finding ways to reduce that printing is going to be a big key. Using electronic signage is a great way to do that. If your hotel or your venue doesn't have that, find out if they have maybe blackboards or whiteboards that can be beautifully written on, and make a different kind of sign. It could be reused over and over again. If they don't have it, maybe that's something you invest in, and you can bring it with you to and from, if that's something that you would do on a regular basis. The other thing you could do if you did have to print is to not put the date on your printing. So for example, if you have an annual sales meeting, you could have signage printed that says, "Welcome attendees, ABC company annual sales meeting," and then don't put the date on it. You can use that sign over and over and over again. It doesn't have to necessarily say, "Welcome to the 2026 annual sales meeting that can only be used in 2026. It could be used over and over again. Try to leverage digital tools as much as possible, such as websites, mobile apps, other electronic communication. And also utilizing human signage. Your event staff or the hotel staff can sometimes pitch in, or your own team, to have friendly, smiling faces directing people this way and that, this way to the pool, this way to that event. That's a great way to eliminate having to print it. Every time you print it, it's going to cost you money. And then don't forget to recycle your name badges and lanyards if you're using them, or maybe consider having name badges that are made out of recycled or upcycled material to make it that much better. For furniture, if you have to put furniture on a stage for a panel discussion, like in the example that you see here, or if there's some soft seating that's needed around the edges of the event for people to take a break from sitting at the tables, you could rent it, and many people do, but that's a cost. And that's also an emissions, because that then has to be shipped from wherever. Even if it's local, it has to be brought in from a rental company. So speaking to the hotel or the venue in advance is key on this, but consider using lobby furniture. Or one of my favorite places to borrow furniture from is the elevator landings on guest floor. Oftentimes there's a chair or two or a small table, and they hardly ever get used. So they're usually in really good shape. And in this example, you can see these were borrowed pieces of furniture from the lobby of the venue. We didn't have to pay for them. We didn't have to ship them in. And it looks great on the stage. You wouldn't know that that was borrowed furniture. Now, again, you need to talk to the hotel and the venue before you start snagging their furniture out of different areas, because they're going to question you if you don't. But most hotels, most venues will allow you to do it to a degree. They're not going to let you empty out their entire lobby. Let me be clear. But small pieces, little pieces, that is usually going to be something that they're willing to work with. On the production side, some of the things you can do, we've talked about signage, but also utilizing local partners to reduce the trucking and the shipping. That will help both the emissions and the budget, because the farther something has to come, the more expensive it's going to be. Choosing LED over conventional lighting. And this again goes back to working with your partners and your vendors. If you choose a hotel or a venue in advance that already has this implemented, that makes it that much better when you're doing your emissions tracking after the event. Using cable ramps and bumps over, as opposed to using duct tape to cover cables on the floor. Not only does it look nicer, but it's reusable over and over again, and it's going to save you money in the long run. And then using show calling software that allows your tech crews to see scripts and the run of show instead of printing, saving you paper and eliminating waste, and also giving you a better way of running your show, because as changes happen, because they always happen, those changes can happen immediately and get made to those scripts, and nothing has to be printed over again. Because as soon as you print something, you can almost guarantee something on there is going to change, and then that piece of paper needs to be reprinted. When you're talking about swag, this is a big one. About 70% of corporate swag that you get or give ends up in the trash. So we want to find ways to be more thoughtful about our swag and gifting. Everybody loves to get a gift and something for free, but at the end of the day, do you really need another fill in the blank there? A cup, a plastic cup, a keychain, or whatever. If you are an attendee, you're going to want to not take things that you know that you're never going to use. Don't just take it because somebody gives it to you and then throw it in the garbage later. Just say no, thank you, or save it for the next person or something like that. That's the big step, because a lot of us feel compelled to take whatever is given to us. As somebody that gives gifts, you're going to want to find items that attendees will actually use going forward after the event. Things that are made from upcycled materials. In the top right corner, you can see a little travel bag that's made from recycled seat belts. And I have an example of that here, and I use mine. I use this for my traveling, and I put my cords and my plugs and my earbuds in it, and it fits nicely in my backpack when I get on the plane. It is not only made from recycled materials, it is made from a company. I got this from a company called Piece by Piece. They're one of my favorites. And they help those that need a little extra help in their life. So they sent me this card that shows me who made that piece of that item that I received, who she is, and she lives in India, and her whole story. So partnering with companies that affect change on a global level, on a big level, they're not only taking care of their company, they're taking care of others in the globe and making the world a better place. That's a great place to start. So the beanie and the tech bag that I showed you, those were from Piece by Piece. The bottom cup, that's from Fill It Forward, and I have an example of that here that I always have. Every time you use this, and you, instead of using a bottle of water, you refill it and you scan that QR code. Based on who gives this out, they have a QR code here that then makes a donation to the charity of choice. And also consider doing a digital option. A book club, a leadership book club, or a management book club would be a great option. Nothing anybody has to pack and take home, and they can use it at their leisure. You could also consider having a swag swap station. And that's something I've yet to actually put into play, but I really want to try soon. And that's where at the end of an event, you have a table and people can put on the table things that they don't want, and then pick up things that other people left that maybe you want a second one. Maybe you liked that hat and you want two of them. You want to take one home to your kid. Use that as a way to make sure that that swag gets used and not just thrown in the trash. And then the big thing is donating, making sure that you find a way to donate everything possible that is left over that would normally get thrown in the trash. So as I mentioned, if you talk to your hotel and your venue in advance, they will probably have a way, or if not, you can help them find a way. Because most major cities do have food rescue companies that will come to the venue and pick up unused food. They have established processes to provide donors with a safe and legal way of donating perishable food items. So don't just assume that, liability, it's not going to work, or if the hotel tells you, no, it's probably not going to work. Don't necessarily, that may be true, but don't necessarily take no for an answer. There are food rescue companies that have ways of doing it, and there might be ways to investigate it a little bit further. Also consider donating if you had a staff office and you have excess paper and markers and pens and stuff like that. You can donate those to local shelters or schools. I was a PTA mom for 14 years. I can tell you, if somebody had said, I've got half a ream of paper and 2 boxes of pens, can you use them? I would have taken that all day long. The same goes for foam core signage that's only printed on one side. Foam core signage, by and large, is not recyclable in most places. And if it is recyclable, you generally have to pay to have it recycled. So that doesn't help our case at all. But if you had it only printed on one side and you donate it to, let's say, a school, they can use that reverse side for art projects, for signs for their own events, things of that nature, because to them it's free and they're going to take it generally. Having a plan in place before you start your event is your biggest key when it comes to donations. And Natalie, that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much. My God, I was like wanting to take notes the whole time. There's so many.
Yeah, but you get the PowerPoint as, so now you have
that's
notes.
why I didn't, but I wanted to. That was great. We have 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one is, what are some sustainable ways you would approach event lanyards?
Okay, so I actually have kind of what I think is a cool idea. I haven't been able to put it into play yet, but I really want to, and I think there's a meeting in January I'll be able to do this. Most of us in the event world have lanyards at home. Even if you're not in the event world, you might have gone to something that requires you to have a lanyard. So what if we asked people to bring their own lanyard? And then it becomes potentially a networking option. As people come in and people filter in, you say to them, find somebody that has a lanyard that matches yours. So if it's something where maybe not everybody would have gone to the same event, find somebody that has you've got a red one, find a red one. You've got writing on yours that has the year 2024, find somebody that has that. It becomes an icebreaker and a networking opportunity, as well as you're not spending money on new lanyards that nobody really wants at the end of the day. And 2, it's not a lanyard that's going in the trash because you might be able to reuse it. Same for the name badges.
Yeah, I love how you gamified it. That's great.
Right.
Okay, the other is, when it comes to swag, do you have a go-to resource for donating unused items?
I do. I have 4 kids, so I bring stuff home that I know they're going to want. And if it's something they're not going to want that I have that I, for whatever reason, couldn't say no thank you to, I personally have a niece who's a kindergarten teacher, and all little kid teachers have what they call a treasure box. I give her all my swag that I can't use, with the exception of like food items that are perishable or things like that. Luggage tags, lip balm, what else? Hats, pens, markers, things of that nature. Anything that me or my children won't use, I give to her. She puts it in her treasure box. They get excited to see a luggage tag that has water on it from a hotel, maybe that gave it to me, that's on the beach. They don't know what it is. They don't care. They put it on their backpack and think it's cool that they have, and
Yeah.
she's happy to take it because it's a free way for her to fill some of her treasure box, and then it doesn't go in the landfill. It may end up in the landfill in a few years when the parents are like, no more of this, but
Yeah.
at least it gets a little life out of it and it doesn't just go in the trash immediately.
Yeah, that's a great idea. My kids, it's like a treasure box when I open up my suitcase and I have all that stuff. So it totally makes sense.
Yes.
I love the swag swap idea. I
Okay. I
cannot wait
haven't
to
put
see
that
how
into
that
place
works
yet, but I
out.
really want to try it.
It's such a good idea. Well, yeah, thank you. I mean, I could go on about all the stuff that I loved about it, like the to-go boxes and the living plants, but I'm sure anybody watching this is going to get so many good tips. And you guys at MGME, you guys are great. You know what you're doing. So
Oh, good. Great.
thank you so much. And you guys, Mary Beth is going to be speaking at IMEX. So if you
Yes.
see her on the schedule, go check her out in person.
Yes, I will be at the site. At the Innovation Hub, I think, is where we're going to be, sponsored by Site, Wednesday from 10:05 to 10:55. So come on and see me if you're going to IMEX.
I'll find you. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary Beth. And thank you
Thank
everybody
you,
for
Nellie.
watching. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.